Hello all. In the vein of thanking people and stop apologising, your options, it has been some people calling one a month. For some of you new, welcome back from the new slash part discussing a farm holding up farm. But no dear listener, we no longer run farm and we don't know what you're starting on it, but I'll get to it a bit. This episode is called Distance. Since we last spoke on WhatsApp, the main points are these. My Babci died, which is Polish for grandmother. My partner and I finished work on the farm in Michigan. We moved out of our flat. We flew to the UK and went to my cousin's wedding. We viewed land in England. We viewed a house and land in Michigan. We had a meeting with a lawyer about the UK visa. I flew back to the US for my grandmother's funeral. My partner drove his belongings from Michigan to California to stay with his family. And I visited my sister in Australia. Mostly in that order, but basically you get the gist. And somewhere in there, Donald fucking Trump got elected for a second term. November 2024 will be remembered as one of the longest months of my life. It would not end. With death and change hot on my heels, I found myself in a time of quite deep grief. There are now no living grandparents left, except for my great uncle Eddie, who is absolutely still kicking at 96. But aside from that, I feel this loss more keenly in the stories that I will never hear, in the now unnamed people and places in my Babci's photo albums, and in the things I should have asked. The grief sits with me now, a silent party to the upheaval of this time. The tangible loss of my grandmother is now also melded with the liminal loss of place. All my belongings fit in 2 suitcases. I've spent too much time in airports, not enough time cooking. I have not stopped moving for more than 6 days at a time in the past month. I've been bouncing between revelry, grief, political unravelling, and indecision. And my partner and I are now in the throes of discussion. We are trying to decide where to live. The options are clear, but they are also cloudy, so I'll lay them out for you. Farming in the UK. After talking with a lawyer for a very affordable price, thanks to the Immigration Advice Service, we have to tread really carefully, and I have to get a job. For those of you unfamiliar with the UK's bullshit immigration policy, a couple needs a combined income of £29,000 a year to apply for a couple's visa. It doesn't matter if you're married, if you've lived together for 2+ years with proof, or if you're engaged, you still need to make 29k a year. Because of this is our first time applying, I will have to make the entire income myself to get my partner into the country. To prove this, I need 6 months worth of paychecks. And realistically, I'll need to hold down the job for way longer than that because, I'm not just going to quit after 6 months. That's silly. In those 6 months, my partner can visit the UK, but he obviously can't work here. He can't live here. He can't use the NHS, and the jury is still out on whether or not he's allowed to get a driver's license. Once I have enough paychecks and he is physically outside of the country, we can apply for the visa. We need all the proof we collected over the past few years and a shit ton of money, and then to wait several weeks as our fate hangs in the balance, if not months. If he is allowed in, then he can move over here and we can begin to work the land. This month we looked at some land near Exeter through the South West Land Match scheme, the owners of which are very kind and let us visit and stay overnight during our whistle-stop tour of the UK. The land has an enclosed section with shepherd's huts that are likely to be redone, an orchard of young fruit trees and plenty of water. It's located between 3 market towns and about 30 minutes from Exeter, which is ideal for weekend markets. The landowners are not only supportive, but pretty cool. They helped set up the food bank in their village. They run a natural burial ground. It's a solid option. It could be done. We're still in discussion with them and nothing is set in stone yet, but it's good to look at what we could do. So what are the stumbling blocks? Well, the main one is that I needed a job. Pronto, ASAP, probably yesterday. Has anyone looked at the job market recently? It is fierce. I'm out here sending several tailored applications a day and so far no dice. Add into this the unknown amount of time my partner and I will be apart and the general delay in us being able to farm next year. We've agreed we need to get out of thinking we'll be all sorted by March, which is when the real farm work begins, but it's hard not to think about the loss of growing time this year is likely to cause. There's also the matter of us both needing UK driver's licenses. I grew up in London. When would I have needed one? Of finding accommodation, of starting over again somewhere that is likely to be only temporary. In 3 years we'll have to do the visa all over again. But there are advantages. The political climate is somewhat less volatile. Yes, that's with Keir Starmer being a pro-genocide, anti-immigrant, neoliberal wet tea towel, but it's also less on the verge of civil war. There's also better things about the UK as a whole. There's public transport, there's the NHS, what remains of it. There's a lack of guns in school. There's the proximity to my friends and family. The last 2 points are especially vital if we're eventually going to start a family of our own. Not owning land would also give us the flexibility and freedom, and having support from the landowners and the Land Workers Alliance would be really helpful. Me having to have a job for some of the time when we start the farm might mean we don't have to plough through our savings immediately, which is also a plus. On the other side, there's farming in the US. There is this other side of things, a side that I have resisted for a while now, but is a viable option that needs to probably be considered. Properly be considered. I can't speak. My partner and I looked at land near where we've been living in Michigan. It was, unfortunately, close to perfect. 5 acres with a beautiful 100-year-old barn, a farmhouse, a duck pond, an orchard, a mini greenhouse, and apparently some cats that come with the property. And the owners seemed to like us, and they were in no rush to sell. It doesn't, however, have a well, and is surrounded on all sides by industrial agriculture, and costs quite a fucking lot. To get this land, we would have to go through the process of applying for a loan through the US Department of Agriculture. We're currently adapting our business plan that we used to apply for land in the UK to the area to see if we would be even eligible for the loan. If we manage to get the loan and buy the property, then we'll have a mortgage to pay, something not insignificant when you're starting a small business from scratch. But on the other hand, the land would be ours, which is a wild thing for me. I made peace pretty early on with the fact that I would never get on the property market, and so now there's an option to do so. I honestly don't know what to do with it. What are the stumbling blocks here? Well, one would be getting a well on the property, without which we would be unable to water crops. Another would be actually qualifying for the USDA loan. There's also the political situation in the US right now, not looking very hopeful in terms of people of colour, women's, queer rights, or environmental protections, or curbing the exponential rise of fascism. But then how privileged of it is of me to run away when things start looking bad, to take an option so few people have, to just leave when there is good work to be done and people to be fed. Conversely, does that mean I have a saviour complex if I stay? There's also the emotional aspect of it. We've been telling people for the past year, 2 years, that we're moving to the UK, roadblock after roadblock, time after time. We said goodbye to our friends there under those conditions. I thought I might finally live near my family again. It feels selfish to stay in the US, and it feels selfish to go. But again, there are advantages. We know the area. In the past 2 years, we have built up a pretty good reputation with the businesses and other farmers. There is a thriving local food scene where we were, until recently, a part of it. There's also not something small. The connections we made were strong and tended with care, and we wouldn't have to start from scratch. The land itself has been used to grow organically and has all the buildings we'd actually need to succeed, except for maybe a high tunnel. Not only that, but we could own a house, and if it all went to shit business-wise, we could sell that house and get the money back. And as someone who's paid probably about 30k in rent so far in her life, that is a real plus. No one would have to get a driver's license or a visa, and no visa would free up a big old chunk of change that we could put towards a high tunnel. But then we'd have to pay a deposit on a house, so either way there's each of these choices is quite expensive. Oh, and it's sunny there, which could not be said of the UK all the time. So here we are, the decision of it, the stretching thin on both our parts to keep both options open, to try to not yet close a door so we don't yet have to climb out a window. It's home ownership and political unrest on one side, and housing instability, family and free healthcare on the other. What a fucking choice. In all this, I have to remind myself what we're actually working towards. It's pretty funny, but I've been using the 3 pillars of what matters to me when applying for jobs, but I think I need to hark back to them now, somewhat more sincerely. Connection, nourishment, and knowledge. That's what matters. Growing and supplying nutritious vegetables, supporting the whole damn ecosystem, building resilient communities, empowering them and sharing whatever information I can, not gatekeeping, tearing down barriers to entry. And I'd like to do all this with my partner. That is the core of it. Wherever we end up, this is what we're committed to doing. There will be people to feed, to know, to train and encourage, to learn from wherever we go. There will be a community to join and mould, and if there isn't, we will make one. Whatever we choose will be the right choice. and we will try so hard to make it work. Honestly, a part of me just wants to skip to that part, the hard work of it, instead of the tedium of decision. But there is no way to fast forward through this time. Instead, we need to sit on it, to apply for lots of jobs, to send out our business plan, to keep with the uncomfortable gestation of winter, the itching for spring and new growth. We won't get to rest like this again, I guess. So we should probably enjoy it while it lasts. I'll let you know when we know. Oh, also, I recently got published in Philazine, which is an amazing collection of writings, and mine, about the kitchen this time. My piece was on preserving and the lack of place that I was feeling a few months ago, and I'm now feeling even more strongly now. Yeah, if you're interested in that, I would look them up on Instagram at Philazine. Yeah, see you all later. Bye.